it's good to get around a subject. And again, I love the word mastermind. It's
Yeah.
impossible for two people to come together and not create this third entity. Well, you're doing that on an exponential level when you get into a book club with other people. It
Wow.
definitely raises your level of awareness.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have this presentation for you today on Literacy Journeys with Linda. I have as my special guest today people who are involved in book clubs. So let's get started. I want you to hear all about why they're in book clubs, what kind of book clubs they're in, and what they're getting out of it, and why maybe you should think about being in a book club. So welcome, everybody.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Hey.
Hello.
I would love if you all could just tell a little bit about yourselves and share what book club you're in. Let's start with you, Suzie. Ladies first.
Linda, thank you so much for putting this together. I've never had an opportunity to officially talk about book clubs, but wherever I am, traveling or even in the grocery store with somebody with a book, I like to engage them in a conversation about book clubs.
Okay.
I've been a member of our book club, has no name, sorry. I think it's about 27 years.
The same book club?
The same book club.
That's amazing. What loyalty?
I know, it's loyalty. And through these 27 years, we've had one death and we've had 1, 2, 3 people relocate. So we still have a core and we meet monthly.
About how many people?
Now we have 7.
Okay.
7 people.
That's a manageable number, don't you think, for a conversation?
It's very manageable. It's very manageable. Yes.
And all of those people are longstanding members as well, most of them?
They are all, well, I joined in the early years. Some of them came along maybe 5 or 10 years after that. Our book club, in answer to your question, Miss Linda, is, I would say, relax. We don't have a rigidity kind of parameters where you have to have read the book to attend. Maybe
to the end, you're saying you don't have to have read it from cover to cover?
You do not have to have read it.
Okay.
And there's no stigma or it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So some people, it's just not for them. They didn't care for it, so they didn't read it. Some have read the entire book, and some have read part of it. And that's just fine. And I have found, regardless of what category that I fall in that particular month, and we meet monthly, is I learn. I learn by listening. I learn by listening to different perspectives about the same book, the same author, the same characters. It's invigorating. It's invigorating. It's fun. It's delightful. So it doesn't matter the 7 of us where we're coming at it. It's always an enjoyable, relaxing evening.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And I'm going to get into more deep specifics about the type of books, the titles, but I want to hear from Kenric also. Kenric, tell us about your book club.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, and thank you for sharing that, Suzie. So again, my name is Kenric Lynn. I am a veteran. I retired from the Army back in 2014, and I'm a real estate agent with Century 21 Bailey and Company in Granite City, Illinois, and I'm also the owner of my own training and development company called Local Noon Enterprises. And actually, part of my business model for Local Noon Enterprises includes book clubs. However, we take it a one step further and we engage in masterminds. So one of the things I do is I facilitate mastermind groups. But if you know anything about masterminds, you know that these are book clubs on steroids, so to speak. Meaning we take deep dives into the book. And something Suzie said about having that collective energy there and learning new ways of looking at things, helping each other grow in our awareness, not only about the subject material in the book, but just how it applies to our lives in general. And a funny story about me when it comes to books, I grew up not reading books. So when I was James's age, when I was his age, I did not think of reading as something to be enjoyed. It was something you had to do. It didn't mean I couldn't do it, But if it was beyond a comic book, which is still reading, I didn't want to have anything to do with reading. My mother was always saying, well, if you're bored, go read a book. And I was like, well, that's going to make it worse, you know? But it wasn't until I got older, I was an adult, before I actually decided to make reading a habit. And I discovered that I had to start where I was. And I realized that I had an interest in the self-help type book. And so that's really what got me into it. And now, if you include audiobooks, because Suzie also said just hearing the things in the book, even not just from other people's perspectives, but hearing the author read it in their own voice is phenomenal, because again, it all counts. You know, there is something to having that physical book in your hand. There's that aspect of that, and being able to touch it and flip pages and bend and fold pages. Even though when I was a kid, the librarians, you know, you might get hit on the knuckles with a ruler because, you know, but I came to learn that the book is a tool, and it's something to be gleaned from, and you have to learn how to actually use the book. So as far as book clubs book studies that I'm in, I'm actually currently working through the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. So if you're an entrepreneur or you want to be a business owner, I highly recommend reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It's where he gets into talking about and explaining the difference between the part of you that's the entrepreneur, the technician, and the manager, and teach you how to build your business and thinking about these different parts of you. Okay. And another book club I've been in is Everyone Communicates, Few Connects by John Maxwell, because I'm also a member of the John Maxwell team.
There you go.
And that book's about communication, but taking communication a step further and talking about connecting with people. And how to open the channel up so that you can communicate more effectively.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. James, are you ready to tell us who you are and what book club you're in?
Yes. So I'm James Williams. I'm 11 years old. I attend Liberty Middle School, and I'm in the book club of Books and Bros. And we read books about like young African Americans, or books by African Americans, or about them.
Yes.
Because there's not that many books like about us.
Yes.
We don't see a lot of like African Americans and books that we read. So we try to find those books and we read those. So yeah, that's what we do in our book club. And right now since we're kind of like quarantined, it's been hard for us to meet. Yeah. But right now I'm reading personally New Kid by Jerry Craft.
Jerry Craft. Oh, wait, you're saying that's your own personal choice?
Yes.
It's not a book club book. Well, that's interesting because it sounds like you enjoy books so much. You are not waiting for the book club to tell you what to read. You have gotten the reading habit and you're just picking up a book on your own?
Yes.
That is so wonderful. And Suzie, let's get back with you. Tell me, how do you all choose your book? Who chooses your book? And is it one book per month? And what book are you reading right now? I mean, 27 years. Woo, okay, that's a lot of books.
Well, thank you for that question. I kind of served as, it's kind of a joke, as the historian. So I've gone back through all of our emails, and that we probably started before emails, and certainly Zoom was in vogue. So I've got quite a list of the books we've read all through the years. In answer to your first question, last month our mark was Vanished Half. The Vanished Half. It's wonderful. And then we read a couple of months ago, American Dirt. And I know that got so much press because certain bookstores discontinued selling it. And I guess that was a result of the publisher. I think one of the purposes, and I know you asked us, Miss Linda, to talk about purposes, is I learn so much, especially if it's historical fiction.
Yes.
Right now we're doing Splendid and the Vile, and that's Erik Larson. Erik Larson. And then a few months ago, we read America's First daughter. And that went back to Thomas Jefferson's daughter.
Wow.
Oh, I know. And there was so much history.
I love historical fiction. That sounds great.
Yes, yes. In answer to your question about how we select a book,
Yes.
and that's what is so fascinating to me, how various book clubs actually function relative to that task. First of all, I will say in our book club, we have some serious readers. I mean, some are in 2 book clubs and 3 book clubs, and some people have more time to read. They're like serious readers.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have done through the years is at the conclusion of the evening, we start sharing what books we've read about, what books our friends have talked about, what we read in the New York Times book review, what we've read, what we've heard authors being interviewed. So it's a very lively, helpful conversation. And I will tell you, that's one of my favorite parts of book club evening, is because I just hear about all these books. So we don't vote, just kind of in a very relaxed way, come to a consensus. And we usually select a book for the next 2 or 3 months, which I think is a great idea.
Well, it makes it more leisurely than to read.
It's more leisurely. Plus, if some of us finish the book for March, I want to move on to the next one.
Okay.
I want to know what that is. And then if that's really not for me, then I can move on to the 3rd month. So that's how we've selected our books through the years, which has been very successful for us.
Now, do you cross genres? Do you stick with fiction, or do you delve into nonfiction like what Kenric's doing?
Cross genres, which I think most of us in the book club, we really prefer that. We like to read a memoir. We like to read once in a while a mystery. One of the advantages of being in a book club and developing relationships is to hear about books that we would not automatically select as ourselves. Yeah, Kenric is shaking his head. So I'm thinking, somebody said a few years ago, oh, Gloria Steinem has her biography out. I would not select Gloria Steinem or Tina Fey particularly, but I was glad I read them. And then we read Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And that was fascinating.
Wasn't it?
A great advantage of being in a book club is being not only exposed through discussions, but to actually read a book that would not be on our radar screen.
Right. So you stretch yourself.
We stretch ourselves from biographies to memoirs to bestsellers. Many of us like to support the public library. I think I have 4 or 5 library cards.
Wow.
Because I just like books. Now when I travel, of course, that's different. You know, I do take a device. I'll take my Kindle.
They're good for that. Kenric, can you tell me, in your book club, what titles are you all sticking to the genre of nonfiction? Because it's business.
Yes. So on the business side of the house, it's typically nonfiction. I would say that we're not against doing fiction. It just no one ever recommends them. And so I'm curious as to what would happen if someone actually recommended a fiction book.
That was maybe in a business setting.
Yes, that's in a business setting. Yeah.
What about a memoir of say,
Yep.
Well, that's still nonfiction. But again,
Absolutely.
that same question, how do you choose your books, and how many people are in your book club?
Typically, our book clubs are usually less than 12 people.
Okay, so that's manageable as well.
Yes. Because you also want to make sure you have the time and the opportunity for a maximum amount of people to contribute to the discussion. And having fewer people, like you said, makes it manageable or more manageable. But the way we come up with the books is usually someone will say, hey, what's going to be our next book? And typically people will throw out, some book titles. And after all of the oohing and eyeing goes on, with the titles, someone might just be the voice of reason, say, I think it'd be really great if we did this book. And my groups tend to be very agreeable. And we'll say, hey, yeah, no problem. As a matter of fact, I think in the one group I'm in, the last 2 books, I think I picked them. So but because I put them on the table, and other people said, "Oh, I think it would be a really good idea to do that." My first mentor recommended that book to me 5 years ago, and so there's that buy-in through experience with the book also comes into play sometimes too.
Well, James, I bet, and now I know you've been in books and thank you, Kenric. You've been in books and bros for what, almost 2 years now?
Yes, about 2 years.
And is it monthly?
Yes, it's monthly. We meet every first Sunday.
Okay. And you're saying at this point you're not able to get together in person?
Yes, we go on Zoom calls.
Aren't you all ready for that to be over? What about, because
Yes.
you can't have your snacks, right?
Yeah.
Book club, you can't do your snacks.
But they do send us boxes so when we met in person, we got little boxes and they had snacks and a book in it, or like a paper of some questions that we would answer.
Okay.
And yeah, they would send us those.
Well, that's great. And I want to ask, and this is for anybody, the social aspect of book clubs. I know it's stimulating your mind, but what about the laughter, the food? Maybe some people have a little wine, or I don't know. Or is it really just fun to have a banquet or, snack table? Do you do all that?
I really want to go back to in person because I think that was much more fun.
Yeah. Seeing all the bros. What about you, Susan? Do you all have food or do you meet at different homes or?
Yes, we meet in the evening, and we started out by the hostess serving dinner. That was a lot of work. Most of us were still employed or we had young children. Mm-hmm. Then we transitioned, I would say 15 years ago, to a potluck. We would rotate homes. We'd meet in a home, and the hostess would provide maybe the entree and drinks. And then the other members of the book club would just say, I'll bring a salad, I'll bring a dessert, whatever. And that worked really well. Now, who knows what's going to happen after Zoom?
Yeah.
So I think the social aspect for us, and there were people outside of our small circle of friends. So we've really widened our circle of friendship and gotten very close through the years.
Oh, that's great.
The social aspect, but now our Zoom meetings are 40 minutes.
Wow, that is so great. I just want to ask Kenric, what about your setting for your book club, the setting?
All the ones I'm involved in now, they're all virtual. And I just want to say one thing about the virtual spaces. I get to share in their experience with people who live in other countries. And I think that being forced to move to technology, to online meetings, to Zoom platforms, has actually opened the door for people who probably would never actually physically go to a book club.
Oh.
And I want to mention that with James. I think Books and Bros, you all now have people not just in St. Louis, but don't you have boys in other areas as well who are joining?
Yes, we do. So
that's
one of my cousins, they joined Books and Bros, and they live, I forgot where they live. They don't live over here.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That is a great advantage. Well, speaking of advantage, as we close, would you all just talk to the audience, a parting advice or encouragement to be a part of a book club? James, why should someone join a book club?
I would join a book club because you get to read books that you might have not read, or a book that you've wanted to read, but you want to have the time. And in Books Club, like, you get that time to read a book that you've really wanted to read, or a book that you wouldn't want to read, but after you read it, it was really good.
Yeah.
Like, just to try out new books and to try new things.
That's great. And Mr. Kenric, why should someone join a book club?
For the experience, the growth experience. Someone mentioned expansion earlier.
Yeah.
It's good to get around a subject. And again, I love the word mastermind. It's impossible for two people to come together and not create this third entity. Well, you're doing that on an exponential level when you get into a book club with other people. Definitely raise your level of awareness.
Okay, thank you so much. And then Suzie, tell us why we should join a book club.
And it may not be for everybody, but I will tell you, I think the advantages and why I'm in a book club, I think it certainly broadens what I would say my literacy horizon. I think secondly, I've learned so much. We read the book about Mary Cassatt, the artist, for example, and I mentioned history. So number two, to learn. And third, I think it's the camaraderie, the friendship, the enjoyment, and it's fun.
Well, on that note, thank you so much. It's been fun talking to you all. I appreciate you for joining me on Literacy Journeys with Linda. And please, everyone, if you like these interviews, please subscribe to my channel, Literacy Journeys with Linda, and I will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care, Linda. Take care, Suzie. Take care, James.